You can't change my mind. There is some weird stuff going on with that Nebraska football program. And going back to this, I stated this all throughout Scott Frost's tenure there. They have a much bigger problem than Scott Frost being a terrible head coach. Last year and the year before, I thought there was a chance of this being true, but I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm rushing to this theory way too quickly. But this year, nah, it confirms it. I mean this 100% when I say this. I believe Nebraska football has a serious problem. And the craziest part about all this, guys, is it has nothing to do with the coaching staff or players. In this video, we're going to try to really figure out what this is. I got a couple ideas, but I want to give you this analogy, or not really an analogy, I don't know why I said that, but this example. And if you watch my live reaction to Nebraska's just complete meltdown against Minnesota, I mentioned this very briefly. I started watching Stranger Things. It's a show on Netflix. I think I started in 2018, and I have yet to finish. I know what you're sitting there saying, Matt, how have you not finished it? And I know, I'm getting there. I'm on currently season 4, I think episode 4, so I'm almost done. But anyways, moving along here, if you've seen this show, you're going to know exactly what I'm referring to and talking about. If you haven't seen it, you should still understand. In Stranger Things, there's this virus under Hawkins, which is the city it's based on, or based in, my bad. What is the city it's in? Oh yeah, Hawkins, Indiana. In other terms, it's almost like there's an alternate dimension that is laying under the city. And under the city of Hawkins, Indiana, this isn't some nice universe, it is an evil one. At least that's how I interpret it. If you're a Stranger Things fan and you think I'm wording it wrong, I do apologize. But the point is, in this show Stranger Things, they beat this virus, they beat the Demogorgons, they beat what's called Vecna, it's just like an evil person. But yet, time after time after time, every time they beat this virus, it comes back the next season. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you know exactly where I'm about to go with this analogy. That is the Nebraska football team. There is some evil virus up there in Lincoln, Nebraska. And what I just said, I think it's the greatest example I can give you. It's just like Stranger Things. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. It doesn't matter if they have a good head coach, a bad head coach. Doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter if their offense is clicking one game or if their defense is playing in one game. They somehow, some way find a way to lose every single game they should win. And I want to emphasize this, guys. I'm an Alabama fan. Maybe once a year we have a heartbreaking loss and we lose a game we should have won. And that's at max. Normally we only have one game like that every 2 or 3 years. And that's the remedy for most teams out here. Most college football fans, you have one loss every single year where you're like, man, we should have won that game, but we blew it. But, and I have a really big but, better believe me on this, Nebraska, on the other hand, they have like 6 of those every single year. And I don't care how many times it happens. Every single time, it is mind-blowing to me and mind-boggling as to how they pull this off. It is almost a skill, and it's almost hard to lose games the way they do. And it's getting to the point now, you almost got to wonder if, dang, is somebody betting on these Nebraska games and making these players throw the games at the end? I don't know. Obviously, I'm joking about that, but heck, I don't know another rational reason to explain what's going on. I want to show you this stat line right here. Under Scott Frost, the little tenure he had in Nebraska, they were 5-22 in single-digit possession games. 5-22 in single-digit possession games. Unreal. Heartbreaking loss after heartbreaking loss after heartbreaking loss. And I thought Scott Frost was the problem. I really did, and I still believe that. But then what happened last night against Minnesota? It was the same thing. It was deja vu. It was almost like Scott Frost last night was dressed up as Matt Rule. You can't change my mind. There is some weird stuff going on with that Nebraska football program. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but at a certain point in time, when do we have the conversation that Nebraska is trying to lose these games? I already forgot what it was, but under Scott Frost, they lost like, 13 straight games by a touchdown or less? How in the world does that even happen? Like I said, there's got to be a skill to it. There's got to be a certain art form about it. And then we saw what happened last night. Same thing. I tell you this much, and I tweeted it out last night, and I mean this. Being a Nebraska football fan has got to be one of the most miserable things on the planet. It does. I don't know how Nebraska fans do it. For me, I love it. It is the funniest thing ever. I've said it for the past 2 or 3 years. I get a kick out of watching Nebraska sell out their home stadium, watching their fans get their hopes up before the season, and then they have crushing and heartbreaking losses. I love it. It is just so comical and so funny to me. But at the same time, I'm starting to sympathize and empathize with you guys. I feel bad for y'all. I genuinely feel bad for Nebraska football fans. It has got to be humiliating to root for a football team like this. It does, at least for the past couple of years. You get your expectations up every single year and you get drugged through the mud, and it's just an endless cycle at this point. And going back to this, I stated this all throughout Scott Frost's tenure there. They have a much bigger problem than Scott Frost being a terrible head coach. Nebraska's main problem right now is, number one, they can't get over the hump, but number two, culturally, they are used to being losers. Nebraska currently, as to when I'm speaking, has losing in their DNA. I'm going to tell you a very simple quote. It applies to college football, it applies to every single sport, and it applies to life. Winners win, losers lose. Life is not that complicated. People try to tell you, oh, life's really complicated, this and that, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. Winners win, losers lose. Do you think it's a coincidence that every business Elon Musk has ever touched thrives and succeeds? No, winners win. Same thing in your everyday life. You probably have a best friend or a homeboy, whatever. Everything he does, whatever sport y'all play, whether it's golf, ping pong, cornhole, he's great at. Is it a coincidence? No, winners win. It's what makes the world revolve around its axis. You're always going to have losers on this world, and you're always going to have winners. And currently the winners, in college football at least, are Georgia, Ohio State, Little Bro State, Michigan, Alabama, teams like that, the Blue Bloods. Those are your winners, and we'll just use Alabama for example because they are the gold standard. Do you think it's a coincidence Alabama has the most championships of all time? No. Alabama, yeah, they've had some bad stints here and there, but when you look at their total resume, they've always been winners. Have they had some bad spurts and bad runs here and there? Yeah, but they always bounce back. The difference with Nebraska is, and all their fans try to hold on what they did 20 and 30, 40 years ago, they haven't bounced back. And I also don't think they will ever bounce back, especially with the way college football is moving. No kid wants to play in Lincoln, Nebraska. I talk to these recruits on an everyday basis. You know where they want to play? California, where it's 75 degrees in the winter. You know where they want to play? In the southeast, where it's warm. Most people out here, it's not just older people, most people in general hate cold weather. And to go on top of that, it's not very appealing to go to Nebraska when they straight up suck. The only appeal to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, where there's nothing to do, would be if they were a great football team, like a top 10 team. That'd be it. But they don't even have that. So why would any recruit in their right logical thinking mind want to go to Lincoln, Nebraska? Think about it. Answer it to me in the comment section. They suck at football. There's nothing to do there. They're not going to be good anytime soon. They're not going to pay you in the NIL department, and it's freezing cold. So, yeah. Do you want me to continue to go on and elaborate, or are you going to agree with me? I've said it for years now. Nebraska will not be back anytime soon. I'm not going to sit up here and say in 10 years they won't be back, because maybe they could be. But I can say confidently for the next 4 to 5 years they won't be back. It's similar to Stranger Things. It doesn't matter if they get a new head coach, they beat this virus in the offseason, do this or do that. It's always going to come back. It's in their DNA. Nebraska's culture right now is full of a bunch of losers. And also I want to say this while I'm thinking about it. You're in a very dangerous position because you don't have a quarterback. Your defense last night against Minnesota played out of their mind, and you lost the game. What's going to happen when your defense doesn't play good? You don't even have a chance to win. I'm kind of curious, since we're talking about them, what does their schedule look like? I know next week they got that big-time game against Colorado. I can't wait for that. But outside of that, let's see how difficult it is, because I wonder if they play Ohio State and Michigan. I think they either play one of them or none of them. Oh, wow, y'all got lucky, Nebraska. You don't even play either of them. Oh, wait, my bad. You play Michigan, my bad. So you do got Colorado. You are favored in the game. Then you got Northern Illinois. Then you got another cupcake, Louisiana Tech. Best case scenario, you bounce back and you go on a 3-game win streak, because you're not going to beat Michigan. Don't care. Then you do get some more cupcakes, Illinois, Dude, Big Ten sucks. Gosh, man, the Big Ten's awful. So your schedule is about as easy as it gets for the Power 5, but yet again, Nebraska sucks. So I wouldn't be shocked if they lose a bunch of these games. Look at this stat right here. 25 one-score losses and 16, holy crap, count them, 16 second-half blown leads. What? Oh, my gosh, man. It's got to be rough to be a Nebraska fan, and I'll leave it at that. I'm curious, Nebraska fans. I'm really curious. I know you got a big fan base out there. I know you're watching this video. Let me know your thoughts. You agree with me or you disagree with me? Now, I do want to say this before we end out the video. I know I've been harsh and critical, but just because you're losers right now, it doesn't mean you always have to be losers. You can change that, but it starts within. It starts within the locker room, and I don't think these players, they have that winning mentality. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. Losers are always going to find a way to lose, and they did that last night. Let me know your thoughts down below about that.